Peace and blessings to the Dope family. This channel exists solely for the enlightenment, survival, and maturation of men. Now, for those who are new to the channel, welcome. For those who've been here, been down since day one, thank you for rocking with your boy. But before we get into the knowledge, into the game, go ahead and hit that subscribe and that like button, and also the bell icon so you can stay up on the latest. Now, before we get into the content, I want to address an email sent by Brian from Huntsville, Alabama. You know, he kept it short and sweet and got straight to the point and wanted to know, when is the appropriate time to introduce sex in a relationship? You know, now, this question has layers and levels to it, of course, but I think it's safe to say he's speaking from the perspective of just meeting the girl and building to create some type of bond, and the sexual tension is rising as things are growing, you know. So you meet a girl, it's organic, things are getting real, the sexual tension is rising, and you just feel like, okay, at any day, any moment now, it could go down. But as men, we've been taught to let the woman control the sex, you know, control when it's introduced into the equation. And I agree with this sentiment. You know, all sexual encounters should be only under mutual consent by both parties, you know. So now with that said, you know, men, don't let them control you with sex. You know what I mean? We have to stop having that scarcity mindset of not knowing when you'll get your next piece. But a woman's desire for you is going to be powered by your masculinity. You know, make no mistake about that. Your masculinity is your attraction. You know, your attraction is your sex appeal. Your sex appeal is her desire. So the rate at which you take the relationship to a sexual level is her decision, but it's based off the sexual energy that you put off. So moving along, you know, I like to address something before I get into the thick of the content. Since I've started the channel, you know, it's been a few months now, but since I've started the channel, I've had a few people reach out and say that my content is one-sided. And I laugh at this because at the start of every video that I produce, I clearly state, you know, this channel exists solely for the enlightenment, survival, and maturation of men. It's solely for men. You know, women are definitely welcome, but they would have to be able to listen without being triggered. You know, this content is not for them. It's to make who they're with better. It's to make men more desirable. It's to make us build and make us our better selves, which in turn draws them in. You know, it attracts them. You feel me? But let's keep it moving. You know, what I wanted to cover today is understanding a woman's manipulation. Let's first establish what manipulation is. So by definition, it's to manage or influence skillfully. So now, keeping that in mind, manipulation can be productive or destructive, of course, but everything you have that's a material possession is materials that have been manipulated to give you those items. You know, plates, glasses, tables, the whole house you're in, the microphone I'm speaking through right now, you know, the shirt on your back is simply materials that have been manipulated to give you those items. Now, to correlate that to women, manipulation is an instinctual behavior deeply rooted in female biology. You know what I mean? It's also a learned behavior due to one's need to survival. If you break it down, there's really no difference in biological behaviors and learned behaviors. You know, behaviors repeated become deeply rooted in the brain, to the point that the behavior becomes largely unconscious. We do things so much that it becomes a habit. It becomes unconscious motions. You know what I mean? Because people are more prone to choose behavior that supports or ensures their survival versus something that'll be detrimental to them living. You know what I mean? So manipulation is definitely a woman's choice tool or go-to for her survival tactics. So when it comes to them being in a relationship with us, they simply just wish to influence us to achieve a desired outcome. So we have to stop viewing this as solely a bad behavior, you know, and just wish to understand it and even employ some of these tactics ourselves. You know, because manipulation can be good if used in a good manner and in a light heart. So a man's survival tactic is more outward and more direct. You know, if we have a problem, we turn towards it and handle it in whatever matter it needs to happen. And a woman's survival tactic is to figure out, how can I get somebody to handle this for me? It's more indirect versus the masculine direct. Now let's touch on what our survival tactics look like in relationships or choosing a partner in particular. I broke it down to the bare basics and kept it simple with 5 different parts, or let's just call them stages. So number 1, develop attraction between her and a strong alpha man. So that's gain your attraction and also develop attraction for you. So number 1 is just attraction. Number 2, she wants to build the bond and, and make sure the relationship grows, and she wants to become impregnated at that point. So number 3, have you to provide, protect, and ensure the comfort and safety of her and the children that y'all bring into this world. 4 is operate in a manner that her attraction for you decreases and the relationship is compromised. The nagging, the tests, the drama that she brings. Now 5 is if these tests are failed. So 5 is optional. So the 4 are concrete. The 5 is if this happens. So if these tests are failed by the man, then she washes, rinse, repeat, and the cycle continues. So pretty much 5 is if you fail her test, she consider you beta innately and she moves on. Now these stages are the subject at hand, but have many layers to them, that I won't cover today, but I'm sure that many of you have gone through these stages. Many women have used these stages and many men have been used by these stages. So the quicker people realize that attraction starts a relationship, but the understanding of your partner keeps it, the quicker people can stop going through these things. Scripture says, and I forget what book, but I put it on the screen, but it says, my people are destroyed for lack of knowledge. This holds true whether you believe this or not. Now those 5 stages that I mentioned only repeats itself if the man of her choosing turns out to be beta and weak. Now there are men who are alpha by themselves, but as soon as a woman is inserted into the equation, they disintegrate to a beta male who's easily manipulated. And this is when she'll innately sabotage the relationship and start a new quest for a new high quality, high value man. Survival at its finest, fellas. But often that process of self-sabotage in a relationship is gradual and imperceptible to both parties involved. She don't just wake up, or you don't just wake up and say, I'm about to mess this up so we can go our separate ways. Nah, one of y'all or both just starts to wake up in disgust of the other. The woman's disgust is that of a weak beta male, and the man's disgust is that of a woman who compromises his peace and his freedoms. So instead of standing firm and giving it to him straight, they both lean more towards manipulating the relationship and causing the other to call it quits so they can have a peace of mind of blaming the other for not appreciating them as they are and whatever other mess they come up with. You know what I mean? Now that pertains to men and women. We both use these techniques, unfortunately, but it's more so a feminine trait. So to close this up, kings, in order for a relationship to remain intact, a woman's manipulation cannot have a high success rate on you. Meaning that if she's able to easily manipulate you, she will lose attraction for you. You know what I mean? Her attraction fades because you will be viewed as weak. And she will innately feel that if she can do this to you, other circumstances can as well. In turn, rendering you weak in her eyes and not up for the task of providing for her and her kids' needs. So as men, we need to learn to observe the behaviors and give the proper responses, with the goal of making her happy on the emotional level as opposed to speaking to these attempts on a logical level. Because remember, they're wired emotionally versus logic. Also keep in mind that things like manipulation and seduction shouldn't be viewed as negative. It's no different than them saying masculinity is toxic. That's the same exact view because these are the tools that they use: seduction, manipulation, and it's okay. We just have to learn these things. So if she played you, she played you. Take the L. What makes great kings is their experience. So treat wins and losses the same. Celebrate the wins because it shows your growth, and celebrate the L's because it shows you there's still plenty to be learned and a lot more growth ahead, which means you can only be more thorough, more regal, more A1, more alpha, more masculine, which gives us more kings and more life. If you know, you know. But like I always say, it's a hard journey, but a necessary journey of maturation. Be sure to hit that subscribe button, that like button, and the bell icon so you can stay up on the latest. Email me at dopediscourse@gmail.com for your free consultation, and I'll reply in private or on the channel if I feel a dope family can learn from it. But until next time, my dope family, I'm out.